Hey everybody, Garrett here. I just wanted to let you know our last episode ended a little bit abruptly and there wasn't a narration. The same is the case for this episode as well. There's no narration. There is just so much to cover. We couldn't fit it all in one. So this is part 2 of Holy Cow. We hope that you enjoy it. It is overwhelming. There's so much that goes on here. We pray that you listen with a spirit of conviction. We ask God to be with you and with us as we talk about this pretty incredible subject.
All right, Garrett, before we begin part 2 of this episode that we seem to have a hard time moving away from, I have to give a promotion, a shout out. We are going to be at GYC, everybody. We have a booth at GYC, and we'll be doing a seminar, and I need a lot of prayers. I'll be doing the evening plenary meetings as well, and it's all Exodus themed, isn't it?
Yeah, so the whole year is for GYC is Exodus theme. We're looking at Moses is entitled Seeing the Invisible, which really excited about. By the way, if you're listening and you don't know when it is, it's taking place end of December and it goes over New Year's, and it is in Orlando this year, and it's not too late to register, even though when you're listening to this, it's really close to happening. So our seminar is going to be on leadership through the life of Moses.
Yep, and so we're going to come back to this Exodus 32, talking about Aaron. But yeah, I mean, we would love to have you in our seminars. I know for our listeners, you might have questions that you might have thought about asking us, but you don't have access to. So please join us in that seminar room, and we'll be able to unpack some of these things with you.
And come by the booth because we're going to have merch. And we're going to be announcing season 3 at GYC. And there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, by the way, I have to say we have some really cool croc charms.
Croc charms.
Man, those things are like really cool.
I think I'm ordering hoodies today.
Nice.
It's going to be solid.
Nice. Big shout out to David Skarbowski for helping us with
yes, thank you, David.
Our designs. And I think he had a friend that was with him on that.
Yeah, Brian Hearn, I think.
Yep, Brian Hearn. Man, they did a phenomenal job on our merch. So you'll see that at GYC. Come out, support God Inc. Check us out, and we would love to talk with you.
Yeah, shifting gears ever so slightly. This is part 2 of Holy Cow, which is not our original plan. If you have not listened to part 1, strongly suggest go back and listen to part 1. We are recording this same day. We flirted with the idea of doing a marathon podcast and doing like a 3-hour one, but we decided to split this into 2 parts. So we have taken a break. We had some bomb food by my wife just a few minutes ago. So now we're taking a look here, continuing the story of the golden calf in Exodus chapter 32. But again, if you haven't listened to part 1, strongly recommend you go back. But if you're the type of person that's like, I'll listen to this one, then go back. I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's a free country after all.
That is right, until there's none.
All right, let's talk about that, Jermaine.
All right, so we are back. Let's jump right in again, Exodus 32. And we're right now at Exodus 32, verse 6, which we didn't really finish our thought on verse 6 of Exodus chapter 32. It says, and they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play.
Yeah, so we kind of talked, how we ended our last episode was we talked about the devotion of the children of Israel.
And the commitment,
And the commitment to be doing this. There's a quote here from a book, Flame of Yahweh, on page 97, I think is very interesting. It says here that this is not a casual incident. It is organized. Statue, altar, priest, festival. So everything here is all lined up for really a worship service. And then we get into some really interesting things here with it, and it's interesting how that verse closes and rose up to, and then it uses a weird word here. It's to play. Now that Hebrew word is used to describe the earth before the flood.
Okay, you got to unpack that.
So
you're talking about
back in
Genesis chapter 6.
Talking Genesis 6, and it talks about the earth and how it was prior to the flood.
Which you're talking about the aspect of licentiousness and the thoughts promiscuity of God's people mixing with the heathen.
Right.
Right.
And it gets so bad that it says that the thoughts on their minds were evil continually. So it uses the same word there for play as it does to describe the world and the state of the world before God destroyed it.
This is what's cool about the Bible, man. The Bible uses words that play on words.
It's so fun.
It's just like the fact that it uses the word play in itself as a play on the concept of what you find in Genesis 6 is interesting.
Yeah, it uses a word a little bit later, or it might have been back in Genesis where it talks about an inappropriate relationship, and it uses the word sporting.
That's right.
To play.
So that's
sporting.
I forgot who it was. There's a story in the Bible that mentions someone saw somebody sporting with someone.
Sure. Yeah. Same thing.
I think it might have been Abraham or something.
I think it was Abraham, actually. I think it was with his wife, and the
I think it was Pharaoh.
Saw it.
The king
Pharaoh
of Egypt
saw his wife sporting
and like, wait a
with
minute,
him.
they're not related.
Yeah, it was something weird like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but in essence, what this is doing is it is setting up something that is not fit to talk about in children's Sabbath school class. Let's just say that. Often when we talk about these biblical stories, we talk about them in a way that is very much fit for children's ears.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very appropriate. In this setting, we understand that we're a youth podcast and we're a young adult podcast as well. So if you're listening with kids, here's a little bit of a warning. You might want to pause this until you can maybe listen to it with a more mature audience, because this one, it's explicit. The story is explicit of itself.
This may not be something you want to play in the car.
Yeah.
With your kids driving to school or something.
As you can probably tell already. So anyway, not good.
Before we get more detailed into the word play here, the Hebrew word, and I won't even try to pronounce it, it actually brings the idea of laughter or joy, happiness.
Yeah, sure.
But it also brings the idea of mockery as well. Mm-hmm. Right? So there's the element of sexuality, but you have laughter, joy, mockery. That's also included in addition to the word sporting and that stuff that we talked about before. So it's interesting that you have those connections related to this verse where we're talking about sexuality, because that's really where this verse is going. That's what it's describing here.
And I'm going to jump ahead just to give some insight on your point that you just made. Later in the chapter, in verse 17, when Moses and Joshua are coming down off the mountain, they hear what this celebration / worship service is. By the way, I think it's very interesting and pointed that the Bible mentions that Joshua is not present in that camp because he's the next leader, and so he's innocent of these things. Anyway, it says in verse 17, when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp. And he said, it is not the voice of them that shout for mastery. It is not the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I hear. So this is a sound of celebration. And again, not to get too graphic on this singing, but in this book, The Flame of Yahweh, there's a whole basically page that talks about what this singing is and the history of that word singing. And that word singing it's explicit, and it has to do with sexual intercourse / orgies.
Bro.
Yeah.
That is actually something I read.
It's not good. So, and it makes sense because it says later, and we'll read it in just a minute, that the children of Israel are corrupting themselves in this worship service, which is not that's not an uncommon thing for pagan worship services to have. They were often worship services that celebrated fertility, and so often the act of procreation as sport would be celebrated during worship services such as these if they were pagan.
Yeah, which is fascinating, right? Because again, we're talking about going back to Dietrich Bonhoeffer and his statement. We're talking about the church below.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the church of the world.
The church of the world versus the church above, right? The church of God, the church of faith. So what you see here is the church in idolatry that is actually at a point of confusion now with regard to sexuality and worship.
This is what we've been wanting to hit hard.
Yes, and we have to
hit this.
Dive into that, because I think the theology today is all mixed up, right? I mean, I don't know if you've seen it before, but I mean, there is what do you call it? I mean, and it obviously started with higher criticism of the text and people are reading into the Bible the gay narrative.
Sure. Yeah. Which isn't there.
I mean, certainly not.
But we do our best to read in what we would like to be there.
Which, again, is the same point that you find here. Right?
So to illustrate what you're saying, and I think that's what the Bible is doing here, we talked about, the first symptom of the church of the world, the church below, is there's a separation and shame.
That's right.
Then they want something that they can tangibly see. And so what do? They create it.
And what they create eventually leads to what they worship.
Yeah.
And their worship leads to lewdness.
So let's think about that. What is sex, right? Well, at its very base, it is creation. It's procreation, right? That's another word for it. And so the children of Israel here have not only created an image of their own, of their own hands in this idol, this statue, but then they go into a method of worship that is originally intended for procreation, and they desecrate that creation too.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, they're on a spiral of destroying creation
and their sexuality.
Now, it's ironic that the bull, right, the golden calf. We're talking about Apis.
Yep.
Right, the god of fertility among the Egyptians.
Yep.
And so this kind of idolatry, the place from which they're borrowing, is what they were before they met God.
Mm-hmm. This is back in Egypt. Now I use that on purpose because what happens is when you reject God, you become a worse version of what you were before God came into your life. 100%.
And so, yeah, I mean, this is the dog, again, going back to the vomit that James talks about.
Yeah.
And it's a disgusting scene.
What does Jesus say about, when a demon is cast out and you let the demons back in, it gets even
10 times
stronger.
Yeah, 10 times stronger, yeah.
Yeah, same kind of a thing. And also, we've been talking about the Genesis narrative. So we saw Creation Week here in Exodus 30 and 31. Then you see the rebellion in creating the golden calf. And what happens as soon as the golden calf is created? They lose their clothes.
They lose their clothes.
And their shame.
Yeah.
Which is, again, going back to the Genesis story.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Genesis all over again. I mean, God's people just failing on a massive scale.
Massive scale.
So it's interesting that associated with this too, going back with the Genesis narrative, in addition to the word play, you have they were eating and drinking.
So we talked about the flood, right? Eating and drinking and giving in marriage.
Before the flood.
Yeah.
Same thing in Genesis. The woman saw the tree that it was good for food. Yeah. Right. So again, the point that the text is making here is also talking about the baser passions that are being highlighted. It's like when you substitute God for anything. I mean, you become like the animals, and that's all they live for.
Yeah, animalistic.
Eating, drinking, and sex.
Right. Which those things, God created us to eat. God created us to eat. God created us to be sexual creatures.
That's right.
I think that should be, so on this topic, I get a little intense about it because I think that because we understand that sexuality is something that the devil has attacked so much that we don't talk about it at all.
We don't discuss it. Yeah.
We don't talk about it at all. Yeah. And so I want to be very clear that God has created us to be sexual beings.
So, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I think we need to do a better job at discussing this. And I think what I find often is that it's easier to not have the conversation because of the uncomfortable nature of it.
Totally.
Right. So I have compassion on those who don't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, we have to learn to differentiate between the extremes and where the boundaries lie.
Totally.
And we've talked about this before, right? As we talk about this scene in particular, God had already set bounds around the mountain. And guess what God told the children of Israel not to do? Not to touch their wives.
And we talked about that a few episodes ago, right?
Yeah.
And this is, I think Dr. Tom Shepard puts it very well. He had a sermon once that I think was really powerful. And he was talking about, sexuality. And he said that sex is dynamite. And by that, he said, when it is in a controlled place,
it does good.
It does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But if you just let it go, it's extremely destructive, right? And I want to be clear that in this narrative, we're not talking about sexuality in the way of like LGBTQ. We're talking about sexuality as a whole, and including all of it. Yeah. And so whenever
you're including all of its perversions,
all of its perversions, and even in all of its perversions. We'll just say that. Yeah. So even in all of this, the children of Israel are taking something that God has created and they're perverting it in a way that is mocking what God has done, because God created us in his image. This was created for us as a gift so that we could play a part in the creation of God.
Yeah.
And what do? Well, they take it and they twist it in a way to worship the God that it's just...
And they laugh as they do it. See, that's again the play on words, right? It's sort of a very sinister and almost satanic way that this is taking place. Again, the church in the wilderness. And this is what Satan does. Satan leads you to the point where you're now so low in your thinking that you laugh at what God has made holy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to say too, right, going back to our modern day application, I think just like the church failed here, I think the church today is failing again at the foot of Mount Sinai. Because think about all the scandals.
Yeah. Among God's people.
Yes.
Often God's leaders.
The fact that the divorce rate is very similar in the church.
It's the same.
As it is outside. What in the world?
Now, here's something interesting too. And I'm not trying to go back to this just because it's controversial, but we do a pretty good job of talking about the perversion of sexuality when it comes to same-sex attraction, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And often one of the encouragements or discouragements that we give to people that are struggling with that is, well, let God take that from you, like control that. I think it's very interesting, though, because that is not when we think of sexual sin, that is often one of the things that we jump to. But think about, and I'm going to be very transparent here for just a minute. God created me with an attraction, and my attraction happens to be for women, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I got married to my wife, I was attracted to her then, and I'm still very attracted to her now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you say the word, and this is for our young people, when you say the words "I do," you do not magically stop being attracted to other women.
Mm-hmm.
That attraction and that base passion is still very much there. And so when you're married, God wants that control of even your sexuality to be channeled in the way that he created it for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that does not give you the right to let go and still be attracted to other people and let your imagination run free, right? So in essence, what I'm saying is, just because you're attracted to somebody,
that doesn't mean
that it's okay, right? Whether it's a man or a woman, or if it's LGBTQ, any of that, if it is not the way the Bible has lined it out to be, regardless of your attraction, it's something that we have to submit to God.
Yeah, and I think faith has never been driven by feeling, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's the principle of Scripture. So you have people that argue a lot of times for, if it feels right, do it, right? But that's not how God functions.
So hedonistic.
Right, it is very hedonistic, and that's what that's the scene we see here.
Right.
It's sort of like, again, with the idea of shame going back, right? And I love the fact that you're highlighting that, because that's a very important point to make, because you may feel attracted, but that doesn't mean that's a legitimate attraction.
No, it's not.
And I think here's the problem we have. A lot of times this is the issue. The issue is we don't always believe that God has a right to control how we feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And on this point again, we've been going through this. It's kind of an equation that shame draws a separation from God, right?
And then there's no control.
And then with the separation of God, we do our best to create something in its void that we have created due to that separation. So as church leaders, as God's people, we shouldn't be surprised, because if we are ashamed to talk about sexuality, then there's going to be a separation and a void that our young people can sense. And if there's a void and there's a lack of conversation and shame surrounding this subject, then why are we surprised when our young people create something to fill that void that isn't of God? We can't be ashamed to talk about the subject because it's setting up the future generations for failure.
Yeah. I mean, God's first command to Adam and Eve was be fruitful and multiply.
Great point.
Yeah.
So why are we so
But
ashamed
he talks
of
about
that?
it in a sinless world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, there's another example of this that I think we should look at.
Sure.
Numbers 25.
Okay.
There's another example of the children of Israel committing a very similar sin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Numbers 25, verse 1. It says, "And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom."
Yeah.
This is the King James Version. "With the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. And Israel joined himself to Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel." Again, sexuality connected with idolatry and passion.
Yep. Yep. And sexual sin is usually an object of self-worship.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be done even with somebody else, but that can be done when you are harming yourself too in a sexual way.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all a form of what we're talking about here
Yeah.
today. And this is what the children of Israel are doing in the presence of God.
That is, man,
The mercy of God not to
obliterate them, which
Yeah.
is what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. Now, here's the challenge, right? Because again, we cannot separate the fact that this comes from somewhere, right? This model comes from somewhere. The model they have of worship is an Egyptian model, right? Apis the bull, right? That's from Egypt.
Yeah.
So I think they're worshiping God according to the not I think this is a fact. They're worshiping God according to the dictates of society. This is not a thus saith the Lord. And I think this is where the conversation of sexuality, and I love the fact that you're bringing this up, because I think where the church has stepped aside, society has stepped in and say, "We'll teach you.
No problems. Please.
Like, we'll tell you.
Yeah.
We'll let you know what sex is." And what happens is you have a perversion of the thing that God has created to be so meaningful and so beautiful, I might add. And this is where we are in our society, where young people especially, and notice the word, young people especially, are very confused about sex and sexuality.
Yeah. Because sex is often a very me-centered thing, right?
That's what it is.
It becomes
Yeah.
it becomes as meaningless as eating or drinking.
Yeah.
Like we just said, right?
It's in that same.
It's very weird how the Bible
listed
puts eating and drinking and giving
in
in
the same
marriage. I'm like, that's
category
not
of-
on the same level.
Yeah. It's like, It's like, going out to just ordering a meal. It's like,
Yeah, it's a little bit more, a little deeper than that. But you can also see why the children of Israel so quickly fall back into, because when you read in the Old Testament, like, and they fell back into idolatry. They fell back into idolatry. Often we're like, wow, what's so exciting about worshiping a stone? Like, that makes no sense. But when you recognize that worshiping like this also stimulates the senses, right, in the way that we're talking, then it becomes very addictive and attractive.
Yeah.
I would say that one of the closest things that we have to worshiping the golden calf today is pornography.
I agree with that.
Yeah, because it's a sexual act. It is worshiping God. It is perverting what He's made for us to create. It's pretty bad.
So I find it interesting too that, I mean, we didn't highlight this too, but you have singing and dancing. We talked about the singing, but the dancing piece. Here's what's kind of bothering me. Before, when God started out with them, they complained. They weren't happy. Right? The children of Israel working with God through the wilderness up to this point, right?
Yeah, complained the whole way.
The response is it's opposite of this.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is now they find the pornography. It's like, this makes me happy. Now they find the illicit relationship. This makes me happy.
Is this the most united we've seen the children of Israel so far?
Bro. This is highly problematic.
Yeah. Now, this kind of unitedness can't last for long, right?
No,
Because we know that when these things happen, things implode. But it seems like this is one of the first times that we see a congregation.
So, oh man, this is tough. So here's the other thing, actually where I was heading, and I think this is very, very important. We have to learn the secret of contentment in our relationship with God, because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves here.
Yeah.
Right. Like, am I truly in my relationship with God? Am I satisfied? Am I happy? Right. When we say happy Sabbath on the weekend, like, is that really true?
Right. Yeah. And this is the same. All of this is the same in the book of Revelation as well. There's a woman that is pure, and there's a woman that's dressed very sexually
church above,
provocative.
Church below.
Church above, church below. And the church below is very much offering hedonistic opportunity.
Yeah.
There's wine to be drunk. There's fornication to be had. And all of this is deemed as okay by an organization that claims Christianity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that church is called, the same word that's used in Numbers 25, whoredom.
Right. Babylon.
Yeah.
Right. Which goes all
Confusion.
the way back. Confusion.
Yeah.
Which is going all the way back to what we're talking about. But, going back to Adam and Eve, all throughout Scripture, you have the nakedness and ashamed. I mean, not to have a parody of Naked and Afraid, right? Which is a popular TV show. I think I have ADD. I don't know. But no, nakedness and being shamed, or that word that we mentioned earlier, right?
Bosh.
That's a theme all the way throughout Scripture. For instance, you see it in the book of John at Gethsemane. One of the disciples flees.
Leaves his clothes.
Now, I believe that happened, but I believe that was added for the purpose of saying this was a shameful event that they left. You see Jesus, and he's on the cross, and artistic pictures of that. We see Jesus with a loincloth on, but that likely was not the case.
Yeah.
So we see the shame of sin there as well. It's very interesting how nakedness is associated with shame, and the only thing that can cover that nakedness is the glory of God.
Yeah, and I think, I think what the Bible is teaching us here, and this is the practical observation I'm making from the points you just mentioned, sin is shameful.
Oh, without question.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus took on the sins of the world, and you you gaze on that cross and you're like, bro, this is the shame that sin brings.
Yeah, and that's why we hate looking at it.
Yeah, that's why we hate looking at it.
Because that's you. Or should be.
Exactly. That should be me, right? And so, I mean, the idea of that nakedness, right? Going back to Genesis, I know we keep coming back to Genesis. The fact that God says, "Look, I'll cover your shame."
Is shame the knowledge of good and evil?
I don't know. I haven't really looked too deeply into it, but
it sure seems like it's the knowledge of evil. Because as soon as Adam and Eve take a bite of the fruit, the knowledge of shame.
They became shamed. Yeah. They were afraid and they hid themselves.
It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of shame here until God shows up in Exodus chapter 32.
Yes.
I mean, like they seem pretty comfortable naked.
That's what I'm saying.
Themselves.
They're happy.
Yeah,
they're happy. I mean, and obviously I wouldn't say this is genuine happiness, but when genuine, what I mean is not that they didn't feel it, but genuine in the sense of, well, God, from God's perspective, this is not true happiness, not true sexuality, not true sex, not true love. And so, when God shows up, they realize, wait a minute, we've just exposed ourselves to be these detestable and horrible individuals who have turned aside so quickly. But let's go into the conversation that God has with Moses first before he come down.
Yeah.
So this is going on at the foot of the mountain. The fire's still blazing up top. They rose up, they were drinking, they're eating, they're playing. And verse 7, and the Lord said unto Moses, go get thee down, I love the language of the text because they rose up. God is now telling Moses, go down.
Yeah.
Right. And then it continues, for thy people, which thou brought out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves.
All that you say we will do.
Where's that?
That's what they said when God was on top of Mount Sinai.
I'm like, where is that? It's like, yeah. And again, I know we talked about this before in one of our episodes, and I think I'd mentioned this point, that initially when God started talking, they said, you know what, we can't handle the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Moses, can you talk instead?
Yeah.
Right. So again, the idea of distance, right? Now this distance is pushed a lot further.
Mm-hmm.
All that the Lord said, we will do. And this is commandment number 1.
Mm-hmm. And God says, your people. He doesn't have the possessive. And I believe that God is upset, but I believe one of the reasons that God says your people and not my people is because they have chosen not to be his people.
Yeah.
So he's respecting the decision of they're not wanting to worship me. So I'm not going to claim any authority over them.
Well, I would say also is because they look more like the sinner and less like the Savior.
Oh, for sure.
God can't claim them.
That's a fact.
I mean, it's like, how is he going to claim them in this condition? It's like, bro, I don't know. You look different coming out of Egypt.
You can imagine if the Philistines just came over the over the valley right then, like they just came over the mountain. Like, would God have protected? This is very much what would have happened. But what would have happened if the enemies would just have showed up?
I mean, they were very vulnerable at this point.
Yeah, and would God protect them? I don't know.
I mean, speculations are hard for me.
It's hard, yeah. But you wonder,
it does make you wonder, like, what might happen in that case. Now, here's the thing too that we have to consider. Where is the remedy when God's people that he's using as a remedy for the world of sin, when they themselves become the very world they're trying to reach?
I ask myself that question a lot.
That's one of those speculative kind of questions too. That's one of the things I wonder, man, God is, and I don't know, the mind of God in the sense that I don't know what he's thinking here, but it's like, man, again. Adam tried. Oh, that really messed up. These guys chose them not because they're special, but he does call them his son, his firstborn.
Yeah.
By the way, Adam, same language.
Same thing,
firstborn.
Adam.
Yeah, Adam. And so, what happens when the firstborn fails?
Exactly. And you have the children of Israel that have just been baptized in the Red Sea, and they have fallen flat on their face.
Right after baptism.
And this is not, at least with Eve, it was true deception.
Yeah.
Right? Not the case with Adam, but here they are not deceived into this. This is straight up an act of rebellion.
Yeah.
This is a choice that they have made. Like you said, they instigated it. And God does not destroy them, but he does say in these verses, like 10, he says, I'm angry. Verse 9, they're stiff-necked people. So anyway.
Yeah, go ahead. Read verse 10. I think it's important to read.
Now, therefore, let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, that I may consume them, and I will make of you a great nation. So he was still willing to work with Moses. Now,
here's why I love this text, and I've highlighted it in my Bible. I've read it multiple times. God is asking Moses permission.
Yeah, he is, which he doesn't need to do.
He doesn't.
I think he wants Moses to push back.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's an invitation from Moses to have a conversation with God, which is, by the way, the process of mediation.
It is. That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
So God's like, leave me alone. Let me go and take care of business, because he expects Moses to intervene.
Which Moses does. He pleads with God, which is a story that we find all throughout the Old Testament. God, don't destroy the city for this many.
Yeah, which again is so brilliant, right? Because it shows how God is working with Moses to get him to a place to where he understands his role, right? And it's kind of like it's the Romans 8:28,
right?
All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, to those who are called according to his purposes. So God is using this situation to teach Moses a valuable lesson. When these people do what they do, and they look more like you and less like me, it's your opportunity to be a mediator now.
Yeah. We got to keep going, Jermaine. There's so much here.
I know.
There's this discussion between God and Moses, but we also have to look at what happens after, too.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so I think the mediation piece we can skip over. I guess I'll make this maybe a cursory point, and our listeners can read the rest. The arguing back and forth between God and Moses, God saying, they're your people. Moses like, no, they're your people. God says, you brought them. Moses like, no, you brought them. And then finally it came to a place where Moses is like, the Lord turns around from doing what he was planning to do. And Moses reminds him of his promise to Abraham. Say, look, you initiated the covenant.
Yeah.
You got to see this thing through.
Yeah, he goes back in the history books and says, see here? Yeah.
This is a man who knows the word. And I think, again, the success of mediation is to know God and to know the God of the word.
Absolutely. And know God's love.
And know the word of God and the love of God. And so, I think Moses was successful because he knew the heart of God.
I agree. And I think it's so funny because, as they're up here, they're talking about the law of God. That's what most of the discussion probably is on top of Mount Sinai.
The tablets.
Fresh off the press. I mean, imagine being Moses and you're walking down off this mountain with your dude, Joshua, and you see the children of Israel going at it in more than one sense, and in your hands are stones from God.
I wonder if he looked down at commandment number 1.
Or covetousness.
Yeah, he takes a read, yeah.
Or adultery.
Or adultery, yeah.
All of it. And no wonder he threw them to the ground, because they were broken. The children of Israel had broken them.
That's a real life illustration.
It's a crazy good illustration, but I can't imagine the fear or the, oh boy, when Moses when he becomes visible. Like, I wonder who first saw that, or what that announcement must have been like in the camp of Israel. We don't get that in the text.
No.
But he shows up, and it is a scene.
And I imagine, right? Like, who was the first to shout out, Moses is coming?
Right. Who is it? Aaron is going, could it have been a few days ago? Like, could you have come back like a week ago? Then maybe we could have avoided this. But
again, I mean, even that would be a sign of weak leadership. It's the same principle with Saul, who was ready to offer the sacrifice because Samuel delayed. There are some responsibilities that you just can't take on.
Yeah.
This is not your job. You can't create a God for anybody. Just sit this one out, bro. Even if it means perhaps the cost of your life, because this is worse than that.
It's terrible
to be culpable in such a situation versus dying as a faithful follower. I mean, man.
You know what's interesting, though? So 19 and 20, I'm skipping ahead a little bit.
Sure.
So we kind of read already, like, verse 18, the cry and all of that, right? But 19 is what we're talking about. It came to pass as soon as he came near the camp that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot, which is the same verbiage that is used for God's anger.
Yes, he felt the same. Yeah,
so it's mimicked. And he cast the tables out of his hands and broke them beneath the mountain. And he took the calf which they had made and burnt it in the fire and ground it to powder and strawed it among the water and made the children of Israel drink it. What I find interesting there is Moses not only breaks the commandments, but then he takes the calf and also destroys it.
Yeah, and melts it down.
So everything is being brought back to square one.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're moving fast.
You can slow down.
I sort of have to come back to Joshua.
Sure. Which I'm so glad the Bible says he's there, because then we know he's innocent. Yeah,
which is verse 17, and I find this to be amazing that Joshua, what he hears is not what Moses hears.
Right.
Verse 17 says, and when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp. So it does tell you that Joshua was not privy to the conversation that Moses had with God, because it was already clear to Moses what was going on.
Or he's trying to be positive. I think you're right. He's like, Moses,
they're fighting. They're like, there's war.
I hope there's war. Like it's actually better in this instance.
But yeah, I mean, you would hope that this was war. But it illustrates too Joshua's inexperience.
Yeah, he's young.
You know, it's like Moses, the veteran.
Yeah,
he's a veteran preacher. Joshua's coming down. It's like, bro, like, man, the church is fighting downstairs. You know, and Moses is like,
no, that ain't it. There's a battle happening, but it's not physical.
That's not what that is, Joshua.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then just imagine, right? Because again, from the lens of Joshua, he is seeing this scene play out.
Right.
Right. What is he thinking when Moses begins this process of tearing everything down? And by the way, there's a great illustration of this in the New Testament when Jesus comes to the temple and he finds the revelry. He finds the selling of animals, the abuse of sacrifice. And Jesus started flipping tables. Like the mind of the disciples are like,
snap.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So again, from Joshua's perspective, I'm like, did Moses lose it? It's like,
think back to Exodus 32 when we started. Like Aaron is thinking, oh, my life might be in danger. Moses ain't got none of that.
No.
Moses comes and he's outnumbered
guns
for
blazing.
Sure.
Moses is guns blazing at this point.
No question. He comes down with a man on a mission, and it doesn't look like anyone gets in his way.
And I think Moses understands, right? And perhaps Aaron didn't, but Moses did. Idolatry requires a severe response.
It does.
And that's
legally.
Legally, yeah. And I think that's why Jesus did the same in the temple.
Yeah, you wonder. So in Desire of Ages, it says when Jesus was doing that his face flashed, right, with the divinity.
Yeah.
Moses was just in the presence of God. Isn't his face shining? Like, doesn't he need the whole veil thing? Right.
Well,
I know that happens later, but if you're in the presence of God,
his face, might be shining.
Your face is probably radiant, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, I can't imagine people standing up there looking at Moses. I think they're running, you know? I mean, I think they're all running from this guy. They're like, bro, there's something wrong with this guy's face. It's like the way he looks is very different than the Moses we saw going up.
Exactly.
And so people are just probably scattering at this point as Moses is now tearing stuff apart. And I think I love this imagery because the Bible paints this picture all throughout the story of the Exodus. God is assaulting idolatry. Mm-hmm. That's why the 10 plagues were delivered.
Totally.
It's an attack on all the idols. And these hits were brutal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Nile turning to blood.
They're all
These were all severe attacks on idolatry. The frogs dying in Egypt, which were, that was one of the gods. And so, I mean, God is literally trying to obliterate idolatry. And now, right at the foot of God, they start back. They go all the way back to square one, and Moses becomes the plague. Mm-hmm. For just a play on words there. Like he becomes the one to remove, like he becomes the means of judgment on the idol. And his severity on the idol is different than his severity towards the people.
Yeah, it's true.
They deserve death.
They do here.
But Moses gives them a choice, and let's go to that. Now, he makes them drink it.
No, there's something I want to say here.
Yeah, sure. 20. Go ahead. Sorry.
Now, I'm going to slow down.
Waxing.
No, this is good. The law being shattered kind of shows the relationship the children of Israel have with God. It's dead. Yeah. Not saying that God is dead, but their relationship with God is very much severed.
The covenant is broken.
It's broken, and Moses shares that. We talked about the calf in verse 20 being the what they've created, right? It's their creation of their own hands. It's their version of life. It's their version of God. And then Moses turns it into powder. Remember, we mentioned that God created man from the dust of the ground.
Yeah, dust.
And then they formed this calf in the same way that God did that. Now this is returned back.
So dust.
Basically the calf is dead, is in essence what this is saying. There's a very interesting...
Ooh, I have something on that. I can't wait for you to say what...
Yeah, so this is... I have something here. It's called the Targum. The Targum is a very interesting document. It's basically a Jewish Bible, but it has added into it Jewish tradition. So the Jewish tradition part is obviously not, it's not inspired, but it gives kind of a Jewish understanding of how these stories happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it very interesting because Exodus 32, the verse that talks about, crushing it into powder, it reads almost identical with how the King James does, but it adds a little something to it. So it says this, and he, Moses, took the calf which they had made and burned it in fire and bruised it into powder and cast it upon the face of the water of the stream and made the sons of Israel drink. So that's verbatim what the biblical text says. But then the Targum adds this little Jewish tradition. Whoever had given any trinket of gold, a sign of it came forth upon his face, upon his nostrils. So according to Jewish tradition, they believe that the people that donated to the golden calf, when they drank of the water that had a powder of it, that their face shone with a mark, and those people are killed later in the story.
Oh, interesting.
Which is wild, because I don't know if that happened, but that's the Jewish tradition. But we've been talking about this with Revelation chapter 13, right? They made an image to the beast.
Yeah.
And of course, in Revelation, there's a very clear mark on the forehead or in the hand. And
so there's a mark on the face.
There's a mark on the face according to Jewish tradition, which I think is so wild.
Yeah. We have to highlight that that's tradition, but
exactly. It is. It is, but very interesting.
There's another biblical example of this tearing down of an altar and burning and grinding to dust.
Yeah.
Now, here's the cool thing. That's what I was saying, man, I'm just like, this is crazy to even think about. So again, this is all done within the context of the law, right? The law is given, and idolatry is introduced.
Yeah.
You remember there was a time in Israel later, that would show up later, when the law is missing and idolatry is again reintroduced?
Yeah. And then it's discovered later and read aloud. Yeah.
By who? Josiah.
Yep, Josiah.
Notice this, 2 Kings chapter 23 and verse 15. When Josiah found the altar, it says, moreover, the altar that was in Bethel, the high place which Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who had caused Israel to sin, had built, even the altar in the high place, Josiah tore it down. Then he burnt down the high place, crushed the pole of Ashtaroth to dust, and burned it with fire.
Yeah.
So again, the response to idolatry is always so severe.
Well, you see the same thing on top of Mount Carmel, right? And we
the
talk
showdown.
about
fire.
We talk about when they're cutting themselves and doing those things. The same words that we talked about in orgy happening here in Exodus are the same ones that are used there on top of Mount Carmel. That's also with Baal, and Baal is also a god of fertility. So we know there was sexual activity happening there too. And afterwards, what happens to the priests of Baal? Well, Elijah kills them all.
Yeah.
So that, again, there's a severe consequence to that kind of idolatry in the public eye.
That's crazy. I mean, the point of the story then is God hates idols.
He hates idols because they harm the genuine.
They harm God's people.
They harm the image of God, which is you and I. So when we create other images of quote unquote our gods, it always leads to God's humanity, God's creation being hurt. And that's what makes God the angriest, is when God's creation is hurt. So idolatry harms God's people. So of course God is angry.
Yeah. The apple of his eye.
Yeah, of course.
Right? We are the apple of his eye. That's God's firstborn. If something, happened to your firstborn, your response is going to be intense.
Especially if it's at their own hand, because you feel powerless when somebody else harms your child. You have a place to put that anger, right? Like, okay, vengeance is mine. That person hurt my child. That person's going to pay. But when it's self-inflicted, you're kind of powerless. Like, what do I do?
Yeah, I was reading, actually, there was like a documentary I was looking at about a son who was driving home intoxicated.
Oh, no.
And was actually driving his dad's truck.
Okay.
And ended up killing a lady on his way home. Guy doesn't, I don't know if he was being honest about it, but says he didn't remember what happened.
Yeah.
And blamed somebody else that they were behind the wheel. Turns out all the videos show that he was the one driving the car.
Yeah.
The guy's dad is a deputy that investigates car crashes.
Oof. It's like manslaughter at best, too.
So the dad had to call the department and said, because they had put the truck, right? They were looking for this truck because someone they had gotten video footage from one of the neighbors' house. And they saw the truck and they put a poster out, say, we're looking for this truck. This was involved in a vehicle of manslaughter. And the dad saw his truck and he called the cops and said, hey, and I can't even imagine, right? This kind of phone conversation. And you can hear the voice of this man trembling like, this is my son.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, that's my truck, And he looked at the truck, sees the damage, and he knows that the life of a mother was taken.
He's a pro. He knows. It's hard.
And again, going back to the imagery of God, that's God's son. Mm-hmm. That's committing this heinous act. Mm-hmm. And
self-inflicted.
It's self-inflicted. And so God is.
Yeah. So idolatry is self-inflicted harm of God's creation against itself. And again, we've talked about these different altars that we set up. You named 6 of them a little bit earlier. Yeah. Those need to be crushed to a powder, guys, whatever it is.
They do.
I have a loaded question for you, Jermaine.
Sure. I don't know if I'm ready.
Do you think that your black culture can become an idol?
I think anything can become an idol.
But that's
including that. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
As much as white culture can.
Really?
There are no idols except the one that the other person has.
True.
But no. I think definitely. What I'm trying to be careful of is not to see the world through any other lens but the Word of God.
Yeah.
Because that is what steers me away from idolatry. Mm-hmm. My blackness can quickly become that.
Sure.
And and for some people, the argument could be, well, there are legitimate reasons. I've been reading the book, The Warmth of Other Suns, by Isabel Wilkerson, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And it's talking about the great migration from the South to the North and the things that, people that were living in the antebellum South experienced. And those are things that are hard to listen to, right? Because you can't see the ill treatment of your kind, right? I use that word, without having compassion, but at the same time, a level of fear, right? In your heart thinking, well, man, that's crazy. Or even in many cases, anger.
Sure.
The result of that, you're like, that should not happen. And so you can quickly get defensive, right? There are a couple options: defensive, vengeful, hateful towards the other for how they treated your kind.
Yeah.
But the Bible gives us a different picture, right? The Bible doesn't, while it exposes culture and talks about it, it gives us a picture of one kind, humankind.
Yeah.
Right? We're all God's children.
Heaven citizens.
Heaven citizens. Now, notice what the Bible never said. It never gives you an ethnicity of who's made in God's image.
Yeah.
God made man, that's kind, in his own image. And so we have to be able to recognize the Imago Dei in everybody, irregardless. So go ahead.
I'm pushing the envelope a little bit here.
Go ahead, push the envelope.
Were you relieved that it wasn't a black guy that killed Charlie Kirk?
No, I don't. No. I don't think that was my response.
Okay.
So I did, unfortunately, I did see that video.
Yeah.
And
I think I sent it to you. I'm sorry for that.
No, it's okay. I think what bothered me was not the surrounding conversations. What bothered me was the reality of that situation.
Yeah, I was angry.
Like the fact that this could happen.
I was so mad.
Okay, now I'm going to press you on that.
Okay, here we go.
But let me finish what I'm going to say here. I knew, right? I will say this. I knew what the outcome and consequence could be if it were someone of color that had,
the narrative shifts.
The narrative shifts very, very crazy. And I know people have drawn their banners up. Like for some people, they're like, well, Charlie Kirk represented the right, and so they had to defend the right.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that.
Charlie Kirk was a white man, and so they had to defend their whiteness. Mm-hmm. And so, but for me, I would never want to look at the world through those lenses.
It's hard not to, but I understand.
It's hard not to, but I try my very best because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm pigeonholed.
Agreed.
Because that leads me to an element, an area of fear. I want to look at history for what it is.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm going to go work through the emotions of feeling upset, anger, and all the rest.
Sure.
But at the same time, I do not want to stay there. I have to lift my eyes and say, God, you gotta help. You have to help me figure this out, because the same person that's sitting across from me, I have to still have in my heart and in my mind a desire to see them saved, as hateful as they can be.
Absolutely.
So, but anyway, so you were upset at the death of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it. I know you.
We talked about it for hours.
Yeah. Can your whiteness become an idol?
Absolutely. It's interesting, and we try not to get into politics on this show. And the reason I brought up the subject is not to delve into that, but it's to delve into this issue specifically about our identity and our self-made identity becoming that golden calf. Whether it is politically, whether it is white culture. I mean, you read a book about
our culture. Yeah.
Yeah, you read a book about, the slaves coming back up to the north, right? Or whatever it is. I read a book on the Edmund Fitzgerald the other day. It's probably not the average book a black guy's going to be reading.
No, I actually, you'll be surprised.
The cultures are different, and so.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to the anniversary of
the Big 50.
The Big 50.
Big 50, yeah. Legend lives on.
Which again, you probably would be surprised. Like, I'm a Jamaican black guy that knows about the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah, man.
So anyway,
Michigan,
go ahead.
I'm glad. But no, I think for me it was difficult in the way that, okay, so he was in his 30s. I'm 30.
I'm 36.
Yeah. He was a white guy. That was me. Had a couple kids, my son's age, right? Some of his views I very much agreed with. Some of them I didn't, but some of them I did. He was expressing himself in a place of learning and exercising his right to talk. It's kind of what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, we're doing that now.
Yeah, we're doing that now. So there was a lot of similarities that when you see someone like that be publicly executed, I think you would be inhuman not to be like, whoa, I kind of see myself there. And I think we saw that same thing, slightly different, but we saw that same thing a few years ago when a police officer knelt on George Floyd's neck, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people were upset because I think of the very, very similar things that I just said. So like we've mentioned, it's very easy for us to get tribal in this and to start casting blame, start casting narrative, and pigeonholing yourself into a certain identity that is not built on a creation of God, but it's built on your creation and concept of who God is. And if we do that, we're in danger of, making that identity that we've made for ourselves an idol.
Yeah, and I don't think we can afford to treat those things as sacred as much as we do.
We almost reverence them.
We do. And it, again, I mean, you brought this up, so it's kind of like one of those kind of conversations.
I don't think you were expecting it.
No, I was not expecting that. That was definitely not in our, I mean, we don't have notes. We're just
I love doing
conversation.
This. If you're listening, guys, this is what I live for, man. It's only awkward if you make it awkward.
No, but we have these conversations all the time. And I think coming closer to home, I think this is the mistake that the church makes, right? The mistake of thinking along the lines of identity or identity politics.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, Galatians 2:20, I am crucified. I am crucified. I is the identity.
Yeah. So my whiteness?
Right? Yeah. Crucified.
Yeah.
My blackness? Crucified.
Preach.
My Jamaicanness? Crucified.
Yeah, my American citizenship.
Crucified. We could go down the list and throw all those things in. I am crucified with Christ.
Agreed.
Nevertheless, I live, yet not
I.
Identity. but Christ who lives
in me.
So that's the difference. So I can't look at the world as a black person would.
You saying you need holy eye salve so that you can see?
I do because I mean, we've talked about it. I've experienced racism.
Of course.
And I've gone through the trauma of being hated by my neighbor, and that was tough.
I know that was hard for you.
That was really, really tough for me, man. There's nothing like being a helpless man, not being able to do anything, or all the options being bad to solve the situation, and noticing how it's affecting your family.
Yeah,
and you can't do anything. That broke me. It took me a long time to recover, and I'm still on the road to recovering.
Yeah.
But I can't see my neighbor through the lens of how they treat me.
That's so hard.
It is hard, but I'm saying that if we believe in the power of God, then the power of God has to accomplish even that which is hard. And we might even add impossible. Right? There are places where I can't go without thinking about my safety, for example.
Sure.
Right? But what if God says, go and preach the gospel there?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think this narrative actually illustrates this. So Aaron is confronted by Moses.
Yeah.
Naturally, like, dude, what gives? Aaron says in 22, let not the anger of my Lord wax hot. You know the people, that they are set on mischief. So, because you've dealt with this.
See, this is my issue, man. This is my issue. This is like I'm trying not to be upset at Aaron. The sorriest excuse that a preacher could ever give.
He's such a pansy. He's such a pansy here. Well, it gets worse even.
I mean, it does, but think about that in our modern context. How many times it's like, yeah, I did this. And why? What was your motivation? Yeah, because the people, man.
Man up. Yeah.
Right. Okay, here are the examples. Here are the company. A long list of people that Aaron falls into. That gets me mad every time I think about them. I'm talking about biblical folks. So I see you looking at me a little bit funny. Herod.
Yeah.
Because of those who sat. Pilate.
Biggest one, in my opinion. But yeah, big one.
Right. And you're talking about John the Baptist being killed. These are monumental moments in history.
Yeah.
And moments that affect their legacy and their future for however long, right? Even today, we're still talking about these guys, right? John the Baptist being beheaded, Jesus being crucified. And in each case, give the people what they want.
Festus and Agrippa with Paul.
Festus and Agrippa, exactly.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want. And I'm going to say something here.
Let's go.
We live in an age now where all of our comments and ministries are built around giving the people what they want.
Oh, man.
We have so many Aaron-type ministries now. I'm doing this, and you're like, no, that's unchristian. No, that's because that's what the people want.
Yeah, just
are you kidding me?
Anger. That's all we do.
Are you kidding me? It's like, are you being serious right now? And I think there needs to be a Moses confrontation with these type of institutions and these ways of doing things, because what they're doing is, I'm going to say it this way because I wrote it down. There's a line that I wrote down. Today we have faith by algorithm. Faith that comes by algorithm instead of by the word of God.
That's cash money. That's good. That's real good.
And
but it's true.
And people are preaching to the algorithm, man.
Yeah.
They're preaching. And what the crazy thing about the idol of the algorithm. Oh man, hopefully I don't get too conspiratorial here.
No, that's not conspiracy at all.
But really, the algorithm is driving us into culture wars, race wars.
Oh yeah,
religious wars. And it's driving in all those feelings and all those passions that are building up idols in our little corners. And we are ready to defend Molech instead of God.
A moment's notice.
In a moment's notice, my guy.
Yeah. Okay. So this next verse, I think, is right on it too. It illustrates it even more. It's just funny to me. Verse 23. For they said to me, make us gods, which shall go before us. Elohim again, by the way. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what became of him. 24, though. And I said to them, whosoever has any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it to me. I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf. In other words,
this was a miracle.
So it's like, yeah, I just threw it in there, and then it just came out, which is, okay, so that might sound funny, but in this situation that we're talking about with, okay, identity, culture, all these things that we're mentioning, we often just say to ourselves, it's just who
happened
I am.
that way. Yeah.
Like it's where I was born, and it's just the algorithms that I read. There's no explanation.
Yeah. Man. I have to be careful.
Why?
I don't have to be careful. I know I'm talking to you, but
well, you're talking to a few other people too.
Yeah, a few other people too. But yeah, this irks me quite a bit, right? Because what this says about Aaron is that he takes no accountability.
Zero.
For what happened.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, dude, I'm not responsible for what happens with the gold.
Yeah, no. They just asked me to do it. You know how they are.
Like
the people.
Like Moses, you should understand that these guys are set, their hearts are setting them to be, troublesome. And oh man, I've seen people say stuff like, man, I'm not responsible for what happens in the comment section.
Yeah.
But what about the article you published that leads to this discussion?
It's facts.
I'm not responsible for what people say under the video, but what about the video you produced?
It's true.
Didn't it drive the conversation, the dialogue?
Uh-huh.
And this is why, and I know initially when we started talking about this podcast, particularly we said, we're going to try our very best by the grace of God to remain biblical.
Yeah. That's our number one MO. That's what we want to do in this podcast is try to avoid the controversy while also addressing current events and issues.
Exactly. And why do we do that?
Well, the Bible's the only opinion that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Notice what Aaron did not say.
Mm-hmm.
He did not say, this is what God said.
Right. Now, was he right? The children of Israel tend toward mischief? Yeah.
He quoted them verbatim.
He did.
To Moses.
But it's no excuse for his actions.
He's like, this is what the people said. People said.
Mm-hmm.
He should have said, this is what God said, which would have led initially to a different outcome. He would have nothing to explain to Moses. Like things would have remained the way they should be, but instead is like, yeah, I am, man, there are people who are really, really good at quoting the president, quoting the politician, quoting their favorite preacher.
Oh, yeah.
Quoting their favorite friend.
Podcast.
They're quoting their favorite podcast. You can tell who's listening to who.
Yeah.
You hear Tucker Carlson being quoted. It's like
more of a Joe guy. But.
Yeah, or Joe Rogan, whoever.
Yeah.
Now, the point is, if you know more of that than the word of God, you're becoming an Aaron.
That's an issue. And thankfully, we know the story. Aaron becomes the high priest. God finds a redeemable heart enough in him that he becomes the man.
Yes, sir.
So that's a beautiful thing. But at this point in the story, this guy, he's got to man up a little bit spiritually. And forgive me my dated expression, but the dude's got to get out there and actually, hold up to what truth is and stand up. And when he made the error, fess up to it. But he doesn't do it. And Moses is forced to be that guy that does it. And ultimately, there are people killed because of this perversion that takes place, because this can't happen.
Yeah. I will end. I think we should end here.
Yeah. By the way, the priesthood is born out of this tragedy, which is crazy too.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. It just shows the mercy and goodness of God. Praise God, he doesn't leave us where we are.
Amen.
Everybody. But here's where we leave. We'll leave off here. Moses' question that I think should have echoed through the camp.
Sure.
26 of Exodus chapter 32. It says, then Moses stood in the gate of the camp. Notice his location.
Yeah, the place of judgment.
The place of judgment. That is in the gate, right? Judgment happens in the gate. So he stands in the gate and said, who is on the Lord's side?
Wait, what gate?
The gate of the camp. And he said, who is on the Lord's side? Let him come unto me. Now,
line in the sand.
As much as this was a terrible moment,
awful
in the life of the church, the people of Israel, Moses still gives them an opportunity as a mediator that he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, who's on the Lord's side? Come to me.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of Matthew 11:28 and 29.
Come unto me.
Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
Mm-hmm.
Come unto me. You're on the Lord's side? Come.
Yeah.
And only the sons of Levi took him up on that offer.
And they become the priests.
And they become the priests.
Yeah. And they did not partake in the ritual.
Yeah, they
that
did
happened,
not partake in what happened.
which shows that there were people that were faithful
yeah.
to what God had said, which there was always some. And right now, go ahead.
Which mirrors back to even the crazy story of Elijah.
Yeah.
There are 10,000 who have not bowed the knee to Baal.
Even though he felt alone, there were some. So, and I understand for our listeners, like, it often feels like you're in the minority, but there's always some that are staying faithful to the word of God. And I recognize that there are a lot of altars and golden calves that we can build for ourselves. I'm sure that I have some in my life even now that God hasn't revealed to me yet. But he's showed me some recently, and he'll continue to, and allow him to send that Moses in your life to crush them.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that, and I can say the same. And I mean, I would say, I appreciate you because you're helping in many ways to deconstruct some of those idols that I've built. And I think I'm doing the same for you.
Likewise. Yeah, it goes two ways.
And I think that's important, right? What you're saying here is so powerful. I hope that our listeners can find a Moses in their lives to help them crush the altars, the idols, and burn them with fire and grind them down to powder.
Be violent about it. Don't sit at tables Jesus would overturn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And say, yeah, that's enough. I don't want you worshiping here. Not at the altar of politics, not at the altar of sex, not at the altar of sports, and you name it. There's a long list that we could go through. And that's really true friendship.
It is. I mean, the Bible is very clear that a friend sticks closer than a brother. And I'm glad that I have you, Jermaine. I'm glad that I have my wife. Ultimately, I'm glad I have Jesus. But you need those people in your life that can give you a solid left hook when you need one.
I agree with you. I preach better sermons because of my wife.
Yeah, me too.
So, my dear friends, we appreciate you listening to us. This
had a different flavor.
Yeah.
So if you're still listening, you made it.
Yeah. You made it with us. You can probably see that there was so much here that we were trying to unpack, but we have to say thank you because you also help us on this journey.
You do.
To be better, not just better pastors, but better podcasters and overall better individuals.
Yeah. And I don't know what future this podcast has in store. We've got some events planned upcoming, like we talked about with GYC. We might be doing some stuff in local churches. But ultimately, this is hopefully so that you get closer to Jesus and get excited about studying his word as well. So thank you for making it fun for us.
That's right. As usual, I'm Jermaine.
I'm Garrett.
Thank you for tuning in to God Inc.
See you next time.